We are getting closer and closer to the start of the NRL season with the All-Stars game this weekend, and you know that everyone is doing their best 17s for every single NRL team across a number of videos. Well, I thought I would at least try and make it a bit easier for you guys. So this is going to be part one of me giving you my best 17s, my best starting lineups for every single NRL team coming into the 2022 season. Now, disclaimer, this isn't a round one team, this is just the best 17 they can put together, in my opinion. But guys, before we get straight into the meat of this video, you know the rules by now. Like this video if you haven't already. If you enjoy it, just do it. The button's there, press it, please. Subscribe if you haven't already. This is the home for footy in 2022. And of course, leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Now that we got that out of the way, once again, let's get straight into the first 8 teams. If you want to see part 2 to this, let's try and smash 30 likes as quickly as we can. There's no better way to start this than going through the most hyped up team going into the 2022 season. The Brisbane Broncos are always one of the most talked about teams, being the most prestige and the richest NRL franchise. And considering where they've been the past couple of years and who they've signed, it's no surprise how hyped up they are. But let's go through their starting 17. I've got Tessie Niu at fullback. On the wings, Corey Oates and Cobbo. In the centres, I've got Herbie Farnworth and Katoni Staggs. The halves, I've gone Tyson Gamble as the man to partner Adam Reynolds, who will be the captain. The front row is their strongest asset. They've got Tommy Flegler and Payne Haas. Turpin, he'll be the hooker. And in the back row, Jordan Ricky, Kurt Capel, and Paddy Carrigan returns at lock. And on the bench is Kobe Hetherington, Palisai, Ryan James, and T.C. Rabati. Now, it's still a very young side, it's still a growing team. However, all these players have played a few NRL games now, so maybe we have to stop saying they're such a young team as an excuse. The big talking point for the Broncos this season is going to be who's going to partner Adam Reynolds in the halves. I've gone with Tyson Gamble, mainly because I thought he was their best half last year. And I think that while Albert Kelly is a strong contender, I just think Tyson Gamble earned it because he was the mainstay of the Broncos last year, especially after that period where Benny Ikin came in and they turned their season around, where they still struggled, but at least they were competing in every single game. Unfortunately, Asako doesn't make my list. I just don't see the point of them wanting to start him at fullback, especially when he's going to the Dolphins. So Niu's there, and then I think Cobbo gets the other wing spot. The centres speak for themselves. That forward pack speaks for themselves as well. They are still lacking an out-and-out superstar. I know Adam Reynolds is good, but he's still probably not even a top 3 halfback in the modern game. But look, it's a solid team. I don't think it's going to be pushing for any sort of top 8. I know they've been hyped to the moon, but seeing this, they're still lacking a true ball-playing 13. And their spine is still pretty weak outside of Adam Reynolds. So I don't think the Broncos will do too much in 2022, but it's definitely an improvement. Next up, we're going with the Newcastle Knights. At fullback, I've got Kalen Ponga. On the wings, Tuala and Hunt. The centres, which are a very strong centre combination, we've got Dane Gagai and Braden Best. The halves have gone with Clifford and Clune. The front row, Saifidi, the brothers, with Brayley at hooker. I know he's going to be missing the first half of the season, but he's still their strongest number 9 when he comes back. The back row is Fitzgibbon, Frizzell, and I got Barnett at lock. On the bench is Mann, Clemmer, Jones, and Solo. Look, another team lacking a ball-playing 13. I think Kurt Mann could be in contention for that role, but then I just don't see Barnett fitting in anywhere else. Maybe dropping Fitzgibbon to the bench and putting Barnett back in the second row. Barnett's definitely got to be in there somewhere. It's a real shame for Newcastle because their forward pack is still pretty strong, and their backline has been where I've said the past few years is where they need to improve. They've gone and done that by signing Dane Gagai, but their spine, well, mainly the halves, is very, very weak. Clifford's definitely going to be there. It depends who they're going to partner him, where they want to play Clifford. I would personally play him at 5'8", and I would have Clune as an organising 7. But if you want to bite the bullet and you see Phoenix Crossland as your long-term prospect, or even Tex Hoy at the 6, you put Clifford to 7, and you have one of those two jump in. I think depending on how their season starts, whether they're going to try and push for top 8, or whether they're at the bottom of the ladder, we'll decide that. However, if you're looking at the team that's going to win the most games, I think this is definitely it. Look, the Knights this season are going to struggle, in my opinion, but you never know. because they're going to be playing their guts out knowing they have to keep Kalen Ponga, and now without having to do without Jaden Brayley, it's going to be a big task for Newcastle. Now another team that I don't think will improve tremendously, at least until 2023, but I was a bit surprised when I put this team together. At fullback, Dane Laurie; on the wings, Nofaluma and Mamala, with the centres being Talau and Oliver Gildart. In the halves, we've got Adam Dewey and Jackson Hastings. The front row is Stefano, Little and Alex Twell. The back row, Garner, Leilua and Tyrone Peachy. And on the bench, Luke Brooks, Joa Fingowick, Seyfarth and Zane Musgrove. The biggest thing here is the fact that Brooks is on the bench. Why do I think this? Because Adam Dewey is the long-term six. They talked about him in that doco as being the future of the club. If he is, he's not sticking out in the centres. I do think that the first 13 rounds until Dewey gets back, we're basically going to see a shootout between Hastings and Brooks, and I think Hastings will win that. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Luke Brooks is elsewhere midway through this season. I think it's going to be another struggle year for the West Tigers. I don't know if Madrigaya has got a full season in him. However, the forward pack, it's going to be inconsistent. They'll be able to win a few games, but probably lose a few as well. Tyrone Peachy at lock. Look, they got to go a ball playing 13, especially with this lot. Yeah, I mean, it's alright. It's not a team that's going to be pushing for any sort of premiership contention, but when they get Papali'i and Coruscant in 2023, after another year with Dane Laurie and guys like Talau, Hastings getting in there, maybe we'll see the Tigers do a big improvement then. But for now, it's still a pretty weak team. Basically, this is just going to be to see who can be the shootout between Hastings and Brooks. Is Brooks' time up, or are they finally going to give up on who is their long-term seven? Now the Dragons. People either think this team's going to surprise everyone and make the 8, or they're going to be in contention for the wooden spoon. At fullbacks, Tyrell Sloan; on the wings, they've got Ramsey and Ravalawa. The centres, another very strong pairing, is Moses Sully and Zach Lomax. The halves, we've got Amon partnering the captain Ben Hunt. In the front row, I've got Woods and DeBellin with McCulloch at lock. The back row, Sims and Jaden Sewer. Jack Bird is the lock, and on the bench is Moses and by Francis Mullo, Blake Laurie and Tyro Fuimano. This is a pretty solid team all around. This is a team with not very many young players. It's all guys who have been there at the highest level, whether that is Origin or Finals footy, and they've done it before. So I think this team is pretty average. It's solid. That's the best way to pronounce this team. The thing that'll be the key difference is that fullback and 5'8", how will Tyrone Sloan and Amone do across a full season? Those two settling into their positions will decide whether this team can play finals footy or not. Ben Hunt had a career best year, at least at the Dragons in 2021. And if it wasn't for Paul Vaughan having a cheeky little barbecue, Dragons are probably looking for the second finals berth in a row. But look, this team is just solid all around. The centres are going to be very deadly either side. But it's just Tyrell Sloan and Amona. How can they go at the 1 and the 6? That'll decide if the Dragons are playing finals football in 2022. Now, the team I predicted to win the 2021 Premiership, only for that to not even be close, the Canberra Raiders. Fullback is Transnil Clockstack. On the wings, I've got Rapana and Kotrick, who returns from his spell at the Doggies. In the centres, Jared Croker, the captain, Sebastian Chris. The halves are Wine and Fogarty. The front row, Papali'i has to start along with Gula. I've got Starling at hooker, Whitehead and Hudson Young at the back row. I've put Josh Hodgson in at lock, and then on the bench, no utility at side, I've gone Ryan Sutton, Adam Elliott, Corey Harunara, and Joseph Tarpanay. Now, on paper, this team is pretty good. Looking at this, they've got a decent fullback. They've got two very good wingers. Jared Croker, unfortunately, I don't think if his name was Jared Croker, he would be starting. I would have had Matthew Tomoko in there. Jack Wine's got a better halves pairing. I think Fogarty was probably the best thing the Raiders could have done going into this season. Their forward pack is definitely the strongest suit. Emre Gula has definitely not been as solid as he would like. There's a lot of errors in him. Papali'i had a poor year, as did this entire team. After 2 seasons where they were pretty much in premiership contention, they definitely fell off. But I think last year, while Josh Hodgson has been great for the Raiders, we finally saw Tom Starling come in and prove he's going to be the long-term number 9. And I thought Josh Hodgson played his best footy when he was in the first receiver role last year. So look, you could do the whole thing. We have Hodgson start the 20 minutes, then bring Starling on and move him to lock. But I think if Starling is your long-term hooker, and considering I don't think the Raiders They'll be hovering around the 8, but I don't think that is the way to go. I think you just put Starling in them, he's your long-term hooker, and Josh Hodgson could be a ball-playing 13 until he goes to the Parramatta Eels. But look, like they did in the 2 years that they were close, this team revolves around Jack White and Papali'i. If Papali'i can get them going and Jack White can play off the back of that and set up his back line, then they're in for a good year. Also, Chance's injury wasn't the best, so if he can get back to his best, then this team could definitely sneak into the 8. But after how disappointing last year was, I've got no faith in this team. Now, looking at the Parramatta Eels, at fullback Gutho, on the wings Sevo and Simonson, the centres Wagga, Blake and Panasini, the halves are Brown and Moses, the front row is RCG, Reed Marnie and Joseph Paulo, the back row Papali'i, Madison and Brown, and on the bench Stone, Sean Lane, Niokore and Patrick Kafusi. Now, this team is no different to what it's been the past couple of years, and this feels like this is the last chance this team has of winning the premiership. A lot of people are expecting them to drop off. I think this will be the best Parramatta Eels team we have seen. I think this will be the closest they go to winning the premiership. While I don't think they're at that level, even still, I definitely see this team combining more. If Dylan Brown can have a better year, then they're definitely going to be it. If Mike Acevo can get back to end of 2019 form, then we're in for it. Penasini, he's already started to prove how good he is at the centre position. I don't think Opacek gets a look in. The front row and their entire forward pack is still unreal. Reed Marnie, another season there before going to the Dogs. He'll probably have a career year. It's just a really good team, but they're just lacking a superstar like a Tedesco, like a Travojevic, like a Cody Walker that would put them over the top. But if we can see the emergence of maybe Moses improves, maybe Dylan Brown becomes the player we all thought he was going to be after his rookie year, then we could definitely see that. But I still think this Parramatta Eels team is very solid. However, they just may be a few games away from winning it all. But if they don't get it done this year, then I think the Parramatta Eels may have to go into a rebuild stage. And now, looking at last year's runners-up, at fullback, I've got Latrell Mitchell. On the wings, the try-scoring machine, Alex Johnson and Paulo. The halves are Graham and Tass. The halves, are Cody Walker and Lachlan Ilias. The front row is Mark Nichols, Tommy Burgess with Damien Cook. The back row, Kulumatangi, Jai Arrow, Cameron Murray, the captain. And on the bench is Blake Tuft, Atola, Liam Knight, and Jacob Host. Now, this team, compared to the team last year, is a lot weaker. I didn't realise how weakened it was. I thought we just lost Reynolds and Gagai. But this team, for some reason, just seems a little bit off. Tass and Paulo are still young, and the reason that I put Ilias over halfback in Taff is because I just believe that since Taff will be playing fullback with Latrell out and Ilias getting the start, that Ilias will play good enough to earn that halfback spot long term, and Taff will drop to a utility on the bench. This team is going to revolve around the Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell show. However, the past few years, their weak spot has been that front row, because unlike in Origin, the Rabbitohs forward pack did not allow the quick playables to let Damien Cook go for his dummy half scoops. So if they can do that, that adds another level to it. But Cook's been quiet the past few years. Maybe we see this forward pack improve again, maybe not. This team definitely revolves around Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker. I think that they're going to be good enough compared to other teams to win by themselves, and they won't need a game-managing halfback as such. But I doubt they'll be doing any sort of damage. I don't think they'll be the runners-up this year or even in the premiership. Maybe they can sneak to finals week 2. Maybe they could sneak a prelim. But if Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker aren't at their best, then this team is in danger of missing the top 8 entirely. And now, finally, for the final team in part 1, we're looking at the Melbourne Storm. The fullback is Papenhuyzen, and the wings are Jennings and Xavier Coates. The centres are Remus Smith and Justin Olam, one of the best halves pairings in Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes. The forward pack, who are all destined for the Dolphins, Jesse Bromwich, Harry Grant, Christian Welch, Kafusi, Kenny Bromwich, and Brandon Smith. And on the bench, Nikorima, Jaden, that is, Tom Eisenhuth, King, and Nelson Asafa Solomona if he decides to get jabbed or the NRL do not allow him to play, I guess. A very good team. Definitely going to miss Munster and Smith in the opening rounds. I think this team, look, they're going to be in the top 4 again. It's such a good team. There's no weak point. They're just all solid players. I made a video that they were destined to fail because I wanted some views, but this team is still amazing. Harry Grant has to take the number 9 now that they've got him long term. Brendan Smith can just be ball playing lock, and him and Grant can just do what they did when Harry Grant came on last year. That's essentially what they played anyway. The bench is sort of a weak point, especially Nelson Solomona is out, considering they also lost Tui Kamikamifa, but if Jerome Hughes can improve, if Munster can have the year I'm predicting him to, if Pappenhausen can improve and try and start matching it with Teddy, Latrell and Turbo, then there's no reason this team can't compete for another premiership. I do think that the Melbourne Storm dynasty is on a very, very, very slow decline ever since they won that 2020 premiership, but they broke records last year, and outside they've had some big losses, but looking at this, maybe their depth is where they're weakened, but this team is still incredible. This team's amazing. This team will definitely be there at the bitter end of the season. But guys, thank you so much for listening to me ramble about some of your teams and their starting 17s come, not round 1, but their best 17s for 2022. Let me know if you agree with my teams in the comment section below. Like I said, smash that like button. Do it. It doesn't harm you, and it makes me feel good. Subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, like I said, the quicker we get 30 likes, the quicker part 2 drops.